Hello everybody, my name is Tenelin, and it's been a minute. I've been a little busy with some real life stuff, so I haven't put out as many videos lately. I hope everything's been going well for you. Been taking a little bit of a break from Final Fantasy XIV in between these patches. I gotta catch up a little bit on Feyena, as I haven't had too much time to do this newest planet in the cosmic exploration. But, you know, we still got about 2 months here till 7.4, and actually, today we just got news that the first live letter for 7.4 is scheduled for October 31st. That's the last day of this month, and that means if the standard patch cadence is correct, we are 46 days after that getting 7.4, which goes along with all of the predicted schedules that it will be released on December 16th. Now, I'm a little bit surprised on this because I did expect for the holiday season that we would get a little bit of a change on that, but it looks like they are sticking to that, which means we have about 2 months worth of prep to do right now. That does mean that the Savage looks like it's going to be releasing on the 23rd of December. So it gives us a week of prep time to be able to make that new gear, get those up on the market, get everything prepped up for what you want to make for you and your groups. And so I just wanted to get a video out breaking down everything that you need to know for 7.4 prep. So let's go ahead and get into it. With patch 7.4, this will be the last opportunity to make some gil and have this crafting and gathering bonanza that we're going to have for Dawntrail. There's not going to be really anything in 7.5 other than a new cosmic planet, and then we will go on a little bit of a hiatus until 8.0, the next expansion, comes out. So this will be the last time that you'll be able to earn anything for Dawntrail if you're looking to make a little bit of extra gil and get yourself a little bit of earnings before that new expansion comes out. So if you are looking to make some gil, this is definitely the last big opportunity you'll have, so make sure to take advantage of it. Now, in case you aren't aware, what will happen in 7.4 is we will get a new raid tier on the 16th, and then we're assuming still that they're going to do a 1 week delay on that Savage release, so it will be on the 23rd. But the new gear should be available to craft on the 16th, and that will be the new combat gear along with new combat food and potions that people are going to want so they can prog that new Savage tier. Now, with any of the combat patches, the 0.0, 0.2, and 0.4, there's not a ton of prep that we can do ahead of time because most of the materials that we get are actually released the day of that patch. But there is a good bit of the lower level tiered materials that we can get ahead of time just to save us a little bit of time in that early patch. Honestly, these are the ones that are a little bit more tedious to do and you end up needing more of them. And being able to craft some of these materials as high quality early just makes it so you can make the newer gear a little bit easier, maybe even not requiring that high quality of the new materials depending on where your meld set is. So I'm going to break down the items that you can prep and just a little bit of information that you'll want to know for that early patch release. So let's start with the items. Now, everything in this video will be assumptions based on past patch cycles, but Final Fantasy XIV is pretty standardized in how they release stuff, so we have a pretty good understanding of what you're going to need. I would say with a 90% confidence rate, everything that I say here will be used in some shape or form. There will be a couple of things that I will speculate on that I don't know, in particular for food. A lot of the foods are randomized. They're not really easy to predict. So you're not going to be able to predict what you need for those as much. But for any of the gear, it follows a pretty standard pattern that we understand at this point. So first things first, there are going to be stat essence flowers, and that's going to be these here: the wind balm bay leaf, the eucalyptus, your wind parsley, Kazumauka chamomile, and your pearl grass. These are used for essentially the essences of stats that you're going to need for the gears. For example, you have the gem sap of intelligence that you can see here, and these go into any of the gears from the last Savage tier, the 7.2 patch, and these are used for any of the intelligence based gear, so any of your casters. Then if you look, you have like the chamomile. This goes into the dexterity, and you're going to need these gem saps for any of that gear as well. These require one of the legendary nodes, a water, and then the actual flower, and an aether sand. So these are the 5 plants that you should need to do any of those essences. These are usually just baseline for the entire expansion, we use these exact same ones, just making new gem sets each time. As you can see, we started with the grade 2s and had the grade 3s as well. So any of this stuff that you are going to be crafting will need these. As well, these are going to be used for the potions. The potions are a consumable that you'll use in a fight that gives you a stat. So for any of these, you're going to want to stack up primarily the ones that give strength, dexterity, mind, and intelligence. The Wind's Balm is the vitality one. Nobody really uses these potions, so you don't have to worry about stacking up as many of these, but you will want to get some of the eucalyptus, the wind parsley, Kazumauka chamomile, and the pearl grass if you are looking to make any of these potions to sell or use for any of the raid progression. Now, if you are looking to kind of get ahead on things, you can make some of the grade 3s. They will be in a minor demand when the patch comes out, just because they're going to be a little bit cheaper for people. And while you're early learning, you don't want to use your better tier potions. So making some of these grade 3 potions may be something that's a decent idea, but I wouldn't heavily invest into this too much, as it does use sanctified water, which I do believe you want to stock up, because I'm going to assume, now this is where I say I do not know for certain, but I'm going to assume that the new grade 4 potions will need sanctified water as well. So I would recommend stocking up some high quality sanctified water just in case we do need that, but that one I am not certain on. This just uses the Yoctel spring water and the Tumbleclaw weeds, so it's pretty easy to make. I would recommend making them as high quality. As with any of these materials that we are going to be prepping today, high quality just will make your life easier when the patch comes out, because it might mean you don't have to make the new materials in high quality, saving yourself a little bit of time. And that's what our prep is all about, is making sure that we can make things quickly once the patch comes out. The next two things that you're going to need are the Levin Chrome Aether Sands. Now, these are gatherable from multiple locations, and you can get them from botany, mining, and fishing. There are plenty of different methods in order to get these. I would recommend stocking up a couple hundred of these, depending on how much you're going to be crafting, because everything is going to be using these. The food, the gear, the potions, everything will use Levin Chrome Aether Sand. So please make sure you stock up a bunch. And next, you're going to need some condensed solutions. These can be purchased from various different ways. You can get them from script vendors for orange scripts. You can get them from the Moon or Fayena Cosmic Exploration, which I wouldn't really recommend those. They're a little expensive for that, but it is something you can do. Or you can get them from the latest Allied Society tribe quests. I wouldn't recommend that one, but it is something you can get if you just want to spend your currency on something. It's not very quick. I can't remember exactly how much they cost, but you won't get a lot of them. Ideally, the best way to get these is to do a culinarian orange scripts, the rarefied tacos de carne asada. You can just make these in mass, especially if you have decent gear. It doesn't take too long to make each one of these, and you'll buy these from the orange script vendor. You will need these for every single piece of gear, so stock accordingly depending on how many you're going to need. Towards the end of the video, I will have a breakdown of estimated amounts that you're going to need depending on how many sets you're going to have, just based off a really random guess from past patches, but it'll at least give you a better idea. And finally, in terms of materials that we're going to want to be prepping, any of the level 98 materials. So that's the Claro Walnut Lumber, Thunderyard Silk, the Black Star, the Rakaznar Ingot, and the Gargantua Leather. And on top of that, I would add in the Magnesia Whetstones. I believe these are only level 95 crafts or something like that, but you will want to have some of these as well, just because they are the whetstone for the patch. So all of these are going to be needed for the gear depending on what it is, if it's leather based or if it's metal based. So make sure you stock up accordingly. Ideally, the Thunderyard Silk, the Gargantua Leather, and the Rakaznar Ingot are going to be in the most demand. You're going to use those at greater volumes than anything else. The Black Stars will be used for any metallic jewelry, and the Walnut Lumber will be used for any of the wood-based jewelries as well as weapon hilts and things like that. So just make sure you have a couple hundred of these. Again, we'll break down some numbers in a bit here. But that's everything in terms of materials that you can really prep ahead of time. There's not a ton, like I mentioned, because a lot of what we need is going to be coming out in that new patch. So let's break down what exactly is going to happen once that patch comes out. So once 7.4 is released, there will be new gathering nodes, the folklore legendary nodes that you can find in your regional folklore books. These are going to be completely new nodes and new items. So we won't have any idea of what we're going to get beforehand or where we're going to be gathering them. In order to be able to gather these new nodes, you do need the regional folklore books, which are the same ones we've had for the entire expansion. So if you've already purchased any of these folklore books, or all of them ideally, you are good to go. There's no new books coming out, and that does apply as well to the master recipe books. There are no new master recipes coming for 7.4. As long as you have the level 12 master recipes, you are good to go. If you don't, make sure to purchase all of these before the expansion comes out for 1200 purple crafter scripts. Once that patch is out, we will gather up those new folklore nodes, and then we are going to be able to combine them with some new items that Zircon here at the Tombstone Exchange is going to be selling under the other category. Now, they're not going to be listed right now. They're not going to be for heliometries. They'll actually be for mathematics. So what will happen once the patch comes out is mathematics will move down to the heliometry spot. Heliometries will be discontinued, and a new tome will come in as the weekly capped tome. Mathematics will take place as the uncapped level 100 tombstone, and you'll be able to purchase new items from Zircon for 20 of the mathematics each. I hope that makes sense because it is a little weird, but what ends up happening is any of the mathematics that you have, you will keep, and you can instantly purchase new items from Zircon with them. So I would highly recommend you have 2,000 mathematics before 7.4. You have about 7 to 8 weeks at this point, so you can easily cap out if you do all of your roulettes. So make sure that you have this one capped out so you can purchase that new item from Zircon immediately, and then you can craft that with the new folklore item you will gather in 7.4, and that will make one of the components that you need for the new gear. There will be 5 new crafting components and then 1 that will be used for potions. So 6 total that you can purchase from Zircon, and that is the bulk of what will happen when 7.4 comes out. There's just going to be those 2 new sets of items, the tombstone items from Zircon and the new gatherables from the folklore nodes. Once you get both of those and you have all of the items that we talked about a moment ago, you will be able to make the new gear. Of course, don't forget, you're going to need clusters because they are max level crafts. So make sure that you have your clusters prepped up and ready to go. If you need, I have a video here for a lazy method on gathering crystals and clusters. Makes it so you can just kind of AFK and grab them every 8 minutes or so. That's everything for gear. Other things that you can prep for, there will be new food and potions like I mentioned. The food will require a new orange crafting script item. So if you go into the materials for level 100, so right now we have all of these items that are available for the high tier foods from 7.2, but when 7.4 comes out, there will be new items here, and I believe they will be 15 orange scripts, but they may be 20. I'm trying to blank on if they're 15 or 20 when that one comes out, and they get reduced down, because I know these ones were the previous ones and they got reduced down as well. I'm not sure if they reduced them in 7.3 or not until the new ones replace them. So they may be 15 orange scripts each, but you'll need to purchase these for any of the new food. So it's a good idea to have some orange crafter scripts ready to go. And even if you want, you can get some collectibles ready to go to turn in so you can buy more of those. Now, as I always say with food items, it's insanely impossible to predict exactly what you're going to need. These items end up just grabbing random things from anywhere in the game. You can go back to this being like an Endwalker item, this one being a Shadowbringer's gathered node, I don't even know where giant popotos are. I believe these are also from Endwalker. So it's really hard to predict exactly what you need, but things that are pretty consistent is salts, oils, peppermint's been pretty popular. I don't see any here, but lemonettes, tomatoes, bell peppers. If you really are interested in doing food, which can be a very, very good way to make money early into a patch, then I would recommend just stocking up on some random food items, taking a look, speculating yourself, because I'm not going to want to push anybody to get any items in particular, because it's just so hard to predict what food's going to need. But there will be new foods that you're going to be able to craft, and they will be in high demand, especially early in that patch cycle, once that Savage Tier raid does release. Something that is a little bit easier to predict, though, is the potions that people are going to need. Now, these are one-time use. They last for 30 seconds. So on average, every single pull, especially during a prog, Savage Tier raiders are going to throw one of these, and then they have to do it again at every single pull, unlike food, which lasts for 30 minutes no matter what. In a actual full clear, you're going to be using 3 of these per person in a raid. So these go really very quickly, and they're actually pretty easy to make. You're going to be getting any of the essence flowers that we talked about earlier. You're going to need 11 chrome aether sands for the new ones. And then depending on what they end up doing, they could do something where they use like a previous tier. Let me see if I can find. So in previous patches, I believe these are the 6.4 tinctures is what they were called then. As you can see, they used a alkahest as well as standard water instead, and the alkahest used that flower that we spoke about. These ones don't exactly hold to a standardized way of being made, but the easiest way to make sure you're prepared is you will need the 11 chrome aether sand. You will need one of these essences depending on if you're making mind, vitality, dex, or strength. And then you'll kind of want to just have some of that sanctified water that we talked about. I would have some Yoctel spring water, and maybe look at any of the grade 2 stuff potentially could be used as an ingredient. So maybe it's a good idea to have some nopal flowers or any of the Yoctel spring water. Have maybe some of these crafted if you really want to be prepared. But this one isn't really a prediction that I am 100% confident on. So just have some of these items ready to go if you want to make those potions. That covers everything that is what you need to actually prep. But if you want an idea of how much to actually prep, there is going to be this link down in the description. This is the 6.4 gear set that Vera from my Discord, thank you so much for putting this together. This was actually insanely helpful for me. But this is essentially a mock Savage setup. So this is 8 players using an idea of the standard setup of gear sets that people are going to be using. So taking a look at this, we can get a general idea of the amount of materials that we're going to need for each of the things. So if you look, the level 88 is any of the older materials that we're talking about, like the Rakaznar ingots, the Thunderyard silks, things like that. This is how many of each of them is used for an entire 8-person setup. So this gives you a pretty good idea of what you need to have prepped up and ready to go if you really want to break it down like to a T. So if you have the time and resources to craft up a bunch of these high quality ahead of time, that's what I would recommend doing. But again, this will be linked down in the description to give you a better idea, and if you want to kind of skim through this and understand. So like the star quartz, that's going to be the black stars. You really only need 10 of them for an entire gear set. So maybe we only need to do maybe 20 per 8 gear sets that you want to make. Again, I'm saying 8 gear sets as in for 8 people fully geared. And this even does include weapons. So just keep that in mind when you're prepping up everything here. Anything that says the 4-star, this is the new materials that will come out in 7.4. So this will kind of give you an idea of what you're going to need to be able to prepare once that patch actually does come out. But that is everything that you need to know. If you have any questions, make sure to join my Discord or post a comment down below and I'll do my best to answer. I hope I covered everything that you need to know and it was in an understandable manner. This one is not too complicated of a patch compared to some of the other patches. It's pretty simple in terms of prepping. Thank you very much for watching, and a big shout out to all of my members here. You too can be a member for only $1 a month. Just get you access to some of my videos a little bit early and just shows that you appreciate what I do. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a good one. We'll see you in 7.4.